an AI recruiter on your team and on demand. So your AI guides today will be me. I am Dave Mekelburg. I am the Chief of Staff at Wendy. If you've seen me on the other stage, you know I'm also one of the organizers of the Recruitment Automation Conference. And it's my pleasure to introduce Chris. So Chris, if you want to introduce yourself, say hello.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Saez. Really happy to be here. I'm a Senior Director for Talent Acquisition Operations at Comcast for one of our largest divisions, supporting roughly 28,000 folks. So happy to be here. Yep.
Awesome. So first, I just kind of wanted to set the stage. And we've been at this conference. These are things that are talking about that are in the air, but they're important. It's important to understand how recruiting is changing. We're currently at over 20% record unemployment in the United States. And prior to all this, candidates were already struggling to get feedback in the application recruiting process. This is only getting worse. Companies are not prepared to scale up and down their hiring with rapidly changing, drastically changing business needs, unlike we've ever seen before. Remote work, people are distributed, hiring processes are distributed, teams are having to adapt on the fly. Everyone's trying to figure this out all at once. And then ultimately, we are in the midst of this digital transformation opportunity, right? These are things that have been happening over the last few years, and what's happened over the last several weeks, the last several days, has only accelerated both the opportunity and what's happening on the ground. So to set the stage, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what we do at Wade & Wendy, and then we can move into a really, it should be a really powerful conversation with Chris. But first, just to kind of make it real for you, what we do is our platform automates some of the key recruiting functions to help recruiters do what they're great at, which is recruit, build relationships, and solve challenging human problems. So in terms of how we do that, our conversational AI platform screens and evaluates inbound applicants, engages them in a deep dive round interview, bringing, I joke that Wendy is the best note taker of all time, but essentially what it means is you have more and better indexable data that's based on what people have actually done, their actual experiences, their approaches to problems, things that have been proven to actually demonstrate success in the role that they're applying for. And it helps eliminate things like bias because, it's just a robot taking notes on the conversation, essentially, and you're able to make decisions more confidently. Additionally, we source and acquire talent. So we have, you can almost think of it as an informational interview bot. There are videos and stills where people can learn about opportunities, make sure that they're base level qualified, and move into the hiring process from there. We do programmatic job advertising, finding people where they live, and then we do scheduling and coordination. There's nothing worse in a recruiting process than the process starting with 5 back and forth emails, trying to figure out the right time to actually connect, realizing that, oh, that doesn't work. That's a terrible experience for everybody. So scheduling, moving people through the process, making sure, did you fill out your assessment? Have you applied online? Don't forget your interviews tomorrow. Don't forget to wear a suit and tie, whatever it might be. And then lastly, we have, and we launched this really in the wake of what's happened over the last several weeks and the unemployment crisis, a career advisor, where we take our AI knowledge of the workforce, of job descriptions, relevant job skills from millions of candidate profiles and job postings, turn that into a recommendation for job seekers to figure out what's next and where they can potentially take their careers. So I want to hone in on, and this is the conversation that I think we really want to have here, given that this is a conference for folks that are working in TA and for this community. Recruiters today are stuck managing a disjointed multi-stage process. Here's just some of the steps that we've outlined, but you're calibrating job requirements, you're producing content for employer branding, you're building talent lists for outreach, you're writing personalized messages, you're building and managing the campaign, you're reviewing resumes, you're scheduling and rescheduling, you're phone screening. All these steps are taking up a ton of time, and it's multiplied across the 30 to 40 job openings that the average recruiter is managing at once. So enter automation, enter the top of funnel automation that an AI recruiter and Wade & Wendy bring to the table. So we'll talk a little bit about how this actually plays out, but Wade & Wendy helps automate those wrote top of funnel screening, scheduling, and sourcing activities to really free up your recruiting team to build better relationships, guide people through the process, create a better candidate experience, and really focus on bringing value to the organization, not just moving people through the process as quickly as possible. Ultimately, we are also trying to reduce the amount of overhead and the amount of time that this process takes. We have a huge unemployment crisis happening today. Anything we can do to get people in the door faster is a little step towards chipping away at that. And that's really core to the problem that we're trying to solve here, is get people the right opportunity faster. And that's really important to us. So, we save around, for an organization like Comcast, we may save up to 1,000 hours saved per month in task automation and in recruitment automation. And the way that those 1,000 hours are kind of breaking out, it's around 900 automated tasks per month, everything from search, list development, messaging and outreach, job posting, talent evaluation, phone screens, and scheduling and coordination. And we've mapped out the amount of time that all these things takes. And it's no surprise to anybody that's been a recruiter that, actually reviewing resumes, actually spending time on the phone, screening people, asking those same questions over and over and over again without getting the opportunity to build a relationship, that's taking up a huge amount of recruiters' time. We do all that work, and importantly, we get results. So we deliver 7.9 on average qualified candidates per open headcount. These are folks that are qualified, interested, available, excited about the opportunity, and are ready to be moved through the process, which we additionally help folks kind of get through. So that kind of sets the stage for a little bit about how we try to work with recruiting teams together. And I really wanted to have Chris on with me because, we work very closely with Chris and I've always come away deeply impressed by the way that Comcast approaches human-machine collaboration. Chris in particular just has a ground level kind of vision and understanding of how humans and technologies work together that I just found really powerful. So my monologue is more or less over. And I wanted to kind of kick the question to Chris is, how do you conceptualize humans and technologies working together? How do you personally think about it? How does Comcast approach it? I'd love to hear, how this works in your world.
Yeah, well, thanks, Dave. I appreciate you spending the time and inviting me to do this. And you certainly set up high expectations in terms of my thoughts into this, but I'll see if I can deliver. But as it relates to AI technology and emerging technologies, I view it as it should be an extension of the team, an extension of a recruiter, right? If done and approached the right way, it's a force multiplier, right? It's the ability and the ability for teams and recruiters to refocus their time, energy, to really create that value and become a talent advisor to the business, right? And then concurrently, now that you have more of those impactful or be able to have more impactful conversations, you're generating candidate advocacy through all the different interactions you have with it. Because, a lot of the scheduling, a lot of the pre-screen aspect of it is really task oriented. And so there's not enough time in a day, especially if you're talking frontline, high volume, entry level roles, to be able to do both effectively. And so this is one of those tools that can be and will be an extension of teams. Now, I say that, as I look at the emerging technology, this is obviously an emerging technology. It's rapidly evolving. And I step back beyond just the talent portion of it. I can envision in a world where this becomes kind of a TA assistant, so to speak, going from the full life, it accompanies you through the full life cycle of your career, right? From the attraction point that we deal with and through selection, onboarding, and then through even beyond, right? And so I think this, when I say beyond, it's like, how great would it be to have an AI just kind of be personalized and help you through benefits as you start going through, right? If you have time card issues, you have other things, performance management. I know I digress and talk.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we'll see this technology. And right now, it's one of those things that I think if you leverage it the right way, you're going to see that return on investment and increase that candidate experience.
So, I mean, that's fantastic. And kind of, moving, so building on that and kind of when you think about the future, how do you start planning, like, tactically, strategically? I mean, how do you think about the future with an AI recruiter on the team? What does that look like?
Well, from an operational lens, right, I look at it through three different main vantage points, right? I look at it from a efficiency, expense, and experience standpoint, right? And I think
Cool.
when you think about efficiency, it's out, right? Like, yes, absolutely. We're trying to get quicker to yes, right? Getting to, from the candidate through the process as quickly as can to that start. But from an efficiency standpoint, what does that look like from a, an integration, touch points? How does that, all meld together in a congruent and harmonious fashion, right? When the experience of it all. I'll touch more about the experience part, but then from an expense standpoint, I'm not necessarily talking about cost, dollars and cents. Absolutely, there's always a cost play to leveraging this type of technology. But what does that bring you as in terms of value to your organization and refocusing the time of your recruiters, right? And so the other piece that a lot of, I think folks now are really starting to open their eyes to is the fact of, the experience, right? The more we go to a more digital technology and leverage the AI component of it, I think it's even more important. What does that experience look like? Not just from the candidate perspective, because I think there's a lot of value, and even the candidate's expectations of what that experience should be. Right? Today, it's ubiquitous in terms of the type of AI that you see everywhere. Now the candidates, they want to get to where they need to go as quickly as possible, and especially depending whether that's a entry-level role or maybe an executive role. That's an expectation that's different. So how do you ensure that you're building that experience and leveraging tools for that, whatever vision of your experience looks like, you're incorporating those tools appropriately.
Awesome. That is a wonderful segue. So we've talked, but obviously there is another side of the coin, which is the candidate experience. So, our one of the things that we love about our sort of conversational experience is it's available 24/7. Candidates can speak on their own time. We actually find that around 44% of the conversations that candidates have with Wendy are after hours, on holidays, over the weekends. It's personalized, informative, and engaging. And, it really enables candidates to tell their story beyond the resume. The feedback that we get constantly is people feel heard. They don't feel judged. They get a chance to put their story out there. So what that translates into is an average score of 94 out of 100 on our candidate feedback scores. I think our NPS is in the neighborhood of the Apples of the world. And that's because of that opportunity to tell your story, to be heard, to learn more about the opportunity, to make sure that all this makes sense before you actually get connected to the human that ultimately is going to be your guide to the process. So, thinking about candidate experience, where are things going? Like, how have you seen candidate experience change over the last couple of years? Certainly with our technology, but also with other automation technologies. And then how do you think automation is impacting that? You talked about expectations. Love to expand on that a little bit to understand, how candidates are coming through platforms like this and moving forward.
Yeah. I think it's, we talked about it's the expectation, right? It's the candidate's expectation of the experience. Right. And I think with automation, and depending on your role, and I mentioned, right, there's a lot of roles, at least, that my team supports as it relates to entry level, frontline type of field positions, that experience and that speed may be different than what a professional level, executive level role may look like. So when you think about the candidate experience, the candidates are more and more sophisticated, and truth be told, a lot of these technologies, whether the chat or this type of, AI recruiter, becomes an expectation. And especially for a technology company, it's table stakes, right? You have to have that level of sophistication to be able to, move those people along or move the process along. But there comes now, this is where the art and science comes into play, right? In terms of the science parts, the AI, the machine learning, it's always learning. But then the art comes in is how do you marry that up in the right way that is a fantastic experience, that's engaging, and that keeps people going, right? Because we live in the age where it's just instant gratification, right? How do we balance that with the tools that we have and continue to ensure that our teams are, empowered to be, to create that value and do that, be a talent advisor. So there isn't necessarily a one size fits all, but that's where the art comes in, is how do you leverage that in the touch points and the look and feel and the tone and all those different things in those conversations with the AI and as well as other technologies, and make that a seamless, that seamless experience that really creates just, that brand advocacy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really, these tools are an extension of the brand, right? And Chris knows, because he's worked closely with us on this. Part of implementing something like Wade and Wendy is making sure that brand, not just the voice, not just the copy, but the actual experience is really married into a seamless process. And that's something that we have been really excited to be a part of, with Comcast and with other organizations. Cool. So we have a couple minutes left here. We're probably in our last 90 seconds, and I want to make sure we end on time so folks can go check out the expo, can go continue to explore the conference. Any questions from the audience? Certainly Chris and I do talk about this all the time. We could talk about it all day if you want to sit and listen. But yeah, I would love to hear if anybody has any questions. You can drop it in the session chat. I'm not seeing anything. Any tips for teaching AI recruiting bots like Wendy, from Alejandra Gutierrez? What a fantastic question. One of the things that sort of baked into onboarding, a tool like Wendy, an experience and platform like Wendy, is you get what you put in, right? It's a learning experience. So the more feedback that you provide to AI recruiting bots, the more direction you can kind of point in, the quicker you take action, those types of little things that kind of make intuitive sense, right? Like if you're teaching an intern recruiter what to do, you say, oh, okay, do this, do that. Oh, here's something really subtle that you hadn't noticed. And those conversations start to get captured over time and really start to tease out like the subtleties. And that's where the AI really starts to kick in. But, you as a user of a platform like Wade and Wendy have enormous power and in some ways responsibility to help make sure that Wendy's pointed in the right direction. Cool. And Chris, this is a great question for you. How do the metrics change for performance? So when you're thinking about KPIs, when you have an AI recruiter onboarded, how are you navigating that side of the equation?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I think now, when you look at the metrics, I think the quality of hire becomes even more important, right? Because you have the ability and the tools necessary to get the pre-qualified folks that are already interested and willing, right? And so the challenge now is how do you get those? How do you connect the business needs to and really present the slate that fits those needs? But also more importantly, how then do you increase the time to decision as a talent advisor? Right now that we have these great folks that we presented to you, how can I influence you to make those hiring decisions quicker? Because we all know that they sit on it, right? And they sit on it, and they sit on it. And so I think the metrics necessarily don't change, but the focus on specific metrics there'll be a shift in that, in my opinion. So.
Excellent. All right, we are at 3:21, so I have kept all of you a minute long, but thank you so much for all the questions, for the engagement. Chris, this was the fastest 20 minutes of my life. I could have done this for another 2 hours. I know we all have to get going to the rest of the conference. You can learn more about Wade and Wendy if you go to, you can find our booth in the expo and talk to the lovely Max, who is there from our team, and learn a little bit more. This was wonderful. Thank you all so much. Chris, thank you. This was great. And I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Yeah, awesome.
Right. Take care, everyone.